All right, this is going to be an introduction to ArkivDigital, but it's really going to be an introduction to researching Swedish church books using ArkivDigital. It'll be a short introduction, and then we'll talk about archive search and then index search. Then I'm going to have a case study, and lastly, I'm going to have a brick wall case. ArkivDigital consists of three parts. We have the archive search. That's where you're going to find many of our archives, such as the Swedish church books, tax records, court records, state inventories, passenger ship manifest, and many other types of records. Today, we have nearly 91 million newly photographed colored images, or about 182 million pages of Swedish historical records. Now, we're really working on making Swedish research much easier and much faster. And the way to do that is actually to index the records by name so that you can search by name. So now today we have 246 million searchable posts. And then we also have a family tree where you can document your research. Once you log in, here you're going to see the screen, and on the left-hand side are the tabs for archive search, index search, also map search for the family tree, and then bookmarks. You can bookmark records, and this is where you would open your saved bookmarks. Also over here in the middle, again, there's another tab for opening the archive search and the index. And then there's a quick start guide that you can download as a PDF file. It gives you a quick start guide to the application. First, we'll look at archive search. And when you click on archive search, it opens this menu, search archive documents. And then under archive holder, this is where you can put in the name of the archive, such as the name of the parish, maybe the name of the regiment, or the name of the court archive, and then do a search. You can also search by archive type and then country. And if you're searching within Sweden, you can further limit the search by Swedish county and Swedish province. Now we have more than 100 archive types within ArkivDigital. And under the archive type, the four most widely used are at the top of the list: the parish congregation or the church books, the district court for the court records and the estate inventories at the district level, district register, the tax records at the district level, and then military records. And then after that, the archives are listed in alphabetical order. Now, some have not been translated into English, like Barnhus, and that's for the orphanage records. We have records for the city court, court records and estate inventories at the city level. In the police archives, you're going to find the passenger ship manifest. You've got prison archives, printed literature where there's some scan books, and many other types of archives. So if we do a search for an archive type parish congregation, you notice that, and then do a search there. You notice we have over 2,800 archives. So there's like 2,800 parishes within Sweden. And then if I limit it just to Kalmar, now it's down to 127 archives. And if I select the parish Dalhelm, then I open the archive and I see a volumes list and also an archive information. And under the volumes list, there's 88 volumes for this particular parish. Now that will vary by parish. In some of the very large parishes, you might see a couple thousand. And in this one, you go through it, there's a down arrow, there's household records, congregation records, moving in and moving out records, birth and christening records, banns and marriage records, deaths and burials, connection to the general muster rolls, the estate inventories, and also the records over the absent persons. You can also filter your volume information. You can do it from a year from or year to, and also the type of source. So for instance, here, when you click on the arrow for this type of source, it brings up the types of volumes. And let's say that I just want to filter it on birth and christening. Then I have all the birth records from 1654 to 1937. And this tool can be really helpful in some of the very large archives where you're really looking through a lot of records to use the filter tool. We also have the Archive Information tab, which gives more information about that particular archive. In this case, it gives information about the parish. Also, there's a link to the National Archive database, which shows what physical books actually exist in the regional archive. You can show it on a map. And then we have a section where we get some information about the historical organization of the parish, the diocese that it belonged to, and the district or the HARD, and that's where the court records and the estate inventories were filed. So if we link to the National Archive database, here it gives a list of all the records or the books that exist, physically exist in the regional archives. And we noticed that we only have birth records up to 1937. Well, within Sweden, there is a privacy law that prohibits some records that are younger than 70 years from being published online. So such as the death, the birth, and also the household records. So the cutoff year is 1951. But you see the next book is 1938 to 1954. So some of those records are protected by the privacy law. So that's why you don't see it within ArkivDigital. Here you can show on the map, so you can sort of see the relationship of the parish to other parishes. Okay, then I'm going to go index search. That's really becoming one of the most popular ways of searching is the index search. That opens a menu saying search and index. Then underneath the index source, there's an arrow here, and you open that up and you can see all the different indexes that you can search on. The first one is the population of Sweden, 1800 to 1947. These are all the household congregation books for all of Sweden for those years. Then we have the census of Sweden, 1940, 1950, 1960, 1970, 1975, and 1985. And yesterday we added 1980. So we also have estate inventories, military service cards, Swedes in the US 1940 census who said they were born in Sweden, immigrants or passenger ship manifests from 4 ports in Sweden, birth and marriage and death records from the church books, portraits from 3 photography studios within Stockholm, the agricultural census in 1944, and also a boatsman list, sort of the boatsmen that were in the late 1880 or 1800s within Sweden. And all of these indexes you can search by name. We also have some tools called the Quick Find for the mantles tax records, and also for the general muster rolls, and then the SCB records, which are extracts of birth, marriage, and death records. And while these are not name searchable tools, these are tools that can really help you maneuver in those or navigate in those particular collections faster. Okay, so we're going to look at the church book indexes. And again, it is the population of Sweden, 1800 to 1947, for all the household congregation books for all of Sweden. Now, there are some household books prior to 1800 for some parishes, but these are the ones which have been indexed. Also, we have indexed many of the birth records and marriage records and death records. And this is a work in progress. The population of Sweden, 1800 to 1947, is this name searchable index of all the household examination and congregation records between 1800 and 1947 for all of Sweden. I can't emphasize that enough. It is for all of Sweden. It's 147 years. And it's important to remember that there was very little immigration prior to 1840. So if you have a Swedish ancestor, there's a very high likelihood that you will find that person within this index. And this was created in partnership with MyHeritage. It's the largest name index in Sweden, 165.8 million posts. It also includes the Stockholm's Rottmans archive for the years 1878 to 1926. Now, why is this important? Because in Stockholm City, in the very large parishes, they stopped creating household books in 1878. And instead, there was this Rottmans Institute that was created that was responsible for maintaining the population statistics. And that lasted until 1926. Now, however, if you are trying to search for someone in one of the large parishes within Stockholm between 1927 and 1947 on this index, you're not going to find that person because there was no congregation book or no records from the Rottmans archive. So here's an example. You can do a simple search or an advanced search. And here I've done one for Carl Svensson for the years 1852. And you see I get over 4,500 matches. Now that may be a little bit too much to go through and analyze. But I've added 1852, added Palarna, and that narrows down it to 13. But I've also checked the approximate search because Carl sometimes can be spelled with a C and sometimes with a K for the very same person. And you'll notice here, I have a Carl Johann Oscar, born on March 2nd, 1852 in Palarna. And then down here is a Carl Johann Oscar. It's the same person, but it's spelled with a K, born on the same day. You can also do the advanced search. Now, the advanced search allows you to control your search a little bit more. So you can put it, the simple search, you can just put in all your variables in any order. But in advanced search, you're putting in a designated field. So you can search on first name or last name or partial name, wildcard, gender, birth date, the exact birth date if you know it, or a range of years, birth parish, the county, and also the country. The location, that's the place where the household book was created. So the place is actually a farm name or a village name, maybe a quarter in the city, also the parish and the county. And then the household, that's actually where you search for someone else living in the household, like we did for Brita, adding Brita. You can add a last name or a birth date. So this is a very powerful tool. Here I'm looking for Frederick Anderson. I don't know his birth date. I just know that he was born between 1860 and 1862. His wife's name was Anna, and he had a son that was called Samuel. Do the search, and I get 6 matches, but 4 of these are for Frederick Anton Anderson, born October 25th, 1862, in Hemsa in Gotland. So I can look a little bit further here, and I get a birth date, and then the wife was Anna Elfrida, and the child was Bertel Anton Samuel. I can also link to the record, and then I can verify that the index record is correct. So this is a very powerful search in helping you narrow down when you don't have all the exact information. Okay, another set of church books are the birth records. And our goal is to index all the birth records from the earliest time, 1600s, up until the late 1800s, 1880 to about 1920, varies. And this is the status as of now. So all the birth records for all of Sweden for 1750 to 1840 have now been indexed by name. We also have the birth records from the earliest times of 1600s to about 1900 for all the parishes within Kronoberg, most of Värmland, and then 80 parishes in Södermanland. And then in Jämtland from the 1600s to 1860, and there's also additional parishes that have been indexed, which I'll show you how to check in a few minutes. So here's the index search. You select birth index parts of Sweden. You can do a simple search or an advanced search on and name, birth, baptismal information, name of the father, name of the mother. And down here, there's more information about the index. It says read more in Swedish. When you click that, that gives you a list of all of the birth records that have been indexed. And it's organized by land or county, and then also parish, and then the years. So here's an example of searching for a Margareta born in 1680 in Dunker Parish in Södermanland. I've just done the simple search. I did 1680, Dunker, and then Marg. I just put M-A-R-G and then the asterisk, and the asterisk is a wild card. And look at this record. Now this might be a challenge for people to read, but everything in the record has been indexed. So we have a nice index record with the headings in English. And also it says Margareta, date of birth, it just says 1680, because in the early church books, sometimes you only have the baptismal date, you don't have the actual birth date. So she was baptized on January 5th, and the residence was Ness. We have the parish and the county. Her father was Jans. And the way you find this, it has Margareta, and then it says Jansen. She was a daughter of Jans. So that's how they derived the father's first name. And then she was female. So again, this is a wonderful record and a wonderful index, makes research much easier. Here's what I'm looking for, an Anna, born 1801. So Anna, I'm looking for an Anna Christina Håkansdotter, and she was born in Bærum Parish in 1801. Did a simple search, I get 3 matches, but then I added Håkan to the search, and I get 1 match. And again, another beautiful transcription of Anna Christina over here on the right in the original record. And then we've got a date of birth, date of baptism, birth location here on the record. It's Taglar, the parish, and also the county. We have her father, Håkan Nilsson. We also have the mother, Brita Christina Johannesdotter, and also hustru, which means wife. And then what is missing from the birth record are the baptismal witnesses. So it's always important to look at the original record, first to verify that the index is correct, but also to check for the additional information, because the names of the witnesses can be also key in doing your research. Okay, marriages, we're indexing the marriage books. And the status as of March, where all marriage records for all of Sweden for the years 1800 to 1840 have been done. Also, the marriage records for the earliest times, 1600s up until about 1900, for all the parishes within Kronenberg, most of Värmland, 80 parishes in Södermanland, and then in Jämtland in the 1600s to 1860. So for marriages, you go into index search, you go into the marriage index parts of Sweden. Again, we have a simple and advanced search, and also you can search by marriage date, the groom, and the bride. And then at the bottom, there is also a link to the updated list of marriages. So here I actually searched for the marriage record for Anders Larsson, who married Anna Christina Håkansdotter in Bærum. And all I put in was his name, Bærum, got 3 matches, and I want the one for Anna Christina Håkansdotter. I select that one. And again, almost everything has been transcribed into the index record with the date of marriage, January 1st, the first name of the groom, his occupation, a drang or a farmhand, the place where he was living in the parish. Then we have Anna Christina Håkansdotter, she's a bride, Pega or maid, the place where she was living, and then the source, which I've linked to. And what I've noted in red, it was actually DR, it was abbreviated drang, and it's been spelled out in the index record, and the other ones are more or less the connections. Por means at, met, with, and then Håkansdotter in. So this is a really nice index record. The deaths and research index status as of January is a death records earliest times up until about 1900 for Kronenberg County, all the parishes, most of Värmland County, 80 parishes of Södermanland, and then Jämtland from the 1600s to 1860. And again, there are some additional parishes throughout Sweden when you check the actual list. So here we go into index search, go to death index, and then you go to do a simple, or you can do an advanced search on the name or the death information, burial information, relatives, because sometimes in the death record, especially for a child, one of the parents might be noted, or sometimes a spouse is noted in the death record. And also, again, there's a link to a page that gives you the update. So here we're looking for Jan Henrik Vigveg, who died at Elmsbacka in 1847. And we have, again, his name, homeowner or independent farmer, with his date of death. Death location was Sten Osen, the parish. He was 34 years old. And then we have the cause of death, whole extent. It's sort of like a chest congestion. But what we don't have on the index is, in the record, it does give his burial date, which was April 18th. It also says he was married. And then we do have the complete age in the death record, which was 34 years, 8 months, and 6 days. Okay, so I'm going to do a case study now. So before you jump the pond, and there may be people that are here within Sweden, it may not be applicable, but if you're researching maybe somebody that's gone overseas, you need to know your ancestor's Swedish name, the parish, and a significant date such as a birth date. Now with these indexes, especially the population of Sweden, 1800, 1947, it's not, makes it a little bit easier when you don't have all the exact information that we used to tell people years ago. But here's an example for Gustav Andersson, and he was born in Bærum Parish in Jönköping, born August 23rd, 1836. And what we're going to do is we're going to trace his records from birth to immigration. And normally the first thing you always do, whether you're doing the archive search the way traditionally people have done, you look for the birth record. So we're going to go in to the birth index. Now we know that all the birth records between 1750 and 1840 for all of Sweden have been indexed by name. So I'm going to go in here, I'm going to do birth index. I just put in his birth date, Bærum, and I got one match. And I would suggest if you're looking for a birth record, you might want to go into the birth index and then check to see if those records have been indexed, and then before you go to the traditional way. So here I've done it. I get an index record, and at the top it has his first name, his birth date, the index. With a toolbar where we can print the index, we can correct it, we can bookmark it, we can add it to the family tree. And then we have personal information, such as birth date, baptismal date, location, his father's name, his mother's name, and then a link to the source. And then we have the additional information of the witnesses in the source. Now, what we know, we started off just knowing his parish, his birth date, and his name. Now we have his parents' names. And then we also have the place within the parish that he lived, this Lintabiget. And in the old way of doing it, we would have to go and find the household book for 1836, look in the place name index, and then search for it. But now with the new index search, I can go into the population of Sweden, 1800 to 1947, put in that birth date and also Biram, and then I click on the search and I get 7 matches. And all these records are for him from the time he was born until the time he immigrated. So these are all the household records that he appears in. So the first one is for the years 1835 to 1840. He was born in 1836. And then here, number 7, that's when he immigrated. So we'll look here. This is the first one. And we've got information about him. And then also down at the bottom, it has the other members of the household. And you can click on their names to get their index record. And we also have a link to the record, and you can verify that it's correct. Then we can go forward, return to the match list, and go to the next one for 1841 to 1845. And here we see that there's a brother Håkon down here at the bottom that was born January 5th, 1841. So this is really where you're sort of following the family through. Here's 1846 to 1850. He's still with his parents. 1851 to 1855. 1856 to 1860. And this one is from 1866 to 1875. He's still living with his parents, but here it shows that he got married, and it has his marriage date of the 11th of April, 1868. And it says that he's married to this Elin Kaja Magnusdotter. So let's look for the marriage record. So we're going to go to the marriage index, and we're going to check to see if those marriage records for this particular parish for 1868 have been indexed. And I go here, and well, some of them have been indexed 1698 to 1725, 1800 to 1840. The year that I want has not been indexed. So I'm going to have to go back to archive search, look for Biram Parish, and then open that archive, and then look for the marriage records for that year, 1868. And then here I find the marriage record, has information about the groom, Miss Gustaf Andersson, also the bride. It also includes, in this case, their birth years, birth information. And then also it says it was the first year of marriage for them. And it notes that the bride has the father's written permission. And we have the marriage date and also the minister who married them. We go back to this record, the household record. We notice that the parents of Gustaf died. Anders Larsson died 27th of May, 1875, and the mother died the 23rd of March, 1873. So let's look for Anders' death record. So again, I go to the index search, check to see if those records have been indexed, and they have not. So then I'm going to have to go back to the Biram archive, search for the death record for 1874 or 1875. And here I find the record, May 27th, sorry, the death date down here, May 27th, burial date, June 7th, and then his male, Anders Larsson. He was a widower, and the place where he was living, 79 years old, 6 months and 9 days, and he was a widower. He died of old age. Now I can go back to my match list, and over here where I've got my open records, here I sort of see, it says Gustaf Andersson, born 1836, August 23rd. I can click on that, and that brings back my match list. And then I can go to the one 1876 to 1885, open that one, and I find that the family immigrated to North America in 1876. So that's an example of really searching using a combination of the archive search and the index search, but you sort of see how powerful the index search is. And for people who've been researching for a long time, I'm sure they can appreciate how much easier it's becoming. Okay, here is this is a brick wall, and this is a true case. I've been given permission to use this. This is the given information. It's for Swain Pearson. He was born the 6th of October, 1860. Immigration was thought to be 1877 or 1875. The father's name was Per Pearson, the mother Hannah Swans, and he had a sister Bessie Pearson Moline. She was born the 11th of October, 1852, and it was thought that she immigrated on 1877 or 1866. So I went in, I'm using the population of Sweden, 1800 to 1947, and I'm doing the advanced search. And for the first name, I'm using S and then with a wild card. I'm doing male because I don't want the females. And I put in the exact birth date, hoping that the exact birth date is correct. And then for the additional person in the household, I put the birth date of the sister. And I get two matches for a Sven, one for 1856 to 1860, 1861 to 1868. And I open the one for 1861 to 1868. This Sven has the birth date. Now the father's first name is a pair, but it's Lustig. The mother's first name matches. And then the sister, Benta or Bessie, Bessie could be an American name for Benta, and that matches. But I decided to do more research. So I looked at Sven, found out that he moved out on the 12th of April, 1880, looked at the passenger ship manifest, and it said he was going to Princeton, Illinois, and that's exactly where this family went to, was Princeton, Illinois. I actually researched Benta, and she left in 1872, and she also went to Princeton, Illinois. And this was the right family. So here's a given versus the actual. So this was what the person gave me, Swain Pearson, but this was a Swedish name, Sven Pearson, and then Lustig. Birth date matched, immigration date didn't match, and often it doesn't match. The father was Per, but if this was a couple of generations, they may not have understood about the patronymics, so they may have said Per Pearson, but it was Per Svensson Lustig. The mother's first name matched. Swan, I'm not sure where that came from. And then Bessie Pearson, that really matched Benton Pearson. Moline is her married name. And then birth date match. So this is really, it's a great tool. It's actually helped people solve genealogical mysteries that they've been working on for several years. You also have a family tree. And you can actually, we do have a user manual that you can download for the instructions. And you can add a person manually or import a family tree or GEDCOM file from an existing family tree program. And then here's an example of a Gustav Anderson where I started to build the tree. Okay, we do have a book, Explore Your Swedish Heritage. And this really goes through many of the record types that we have within ArkivDigital. It shows you how to work with ArkivDigital and also teaches you how to do Swedish research in the proper way. You can purchase that on our website. It's $35 in the US, and there's also a Canadian distributor. So here's where it is, the beginner package. There is a beginner package, the book plus a 3-month subscription for $9.95 Swedish kroner. And right now, I think that's about $103. The book in the US from our American distributor is $35.